Hi, y'all. So this is going to be the last Pockets Full of Soup for this year, 2017. I haven't taken a real break in a long time, and it's time to take one. So don't worry, all your Patreon exclusives will be delivered this month. Nothing going to be gone there, but this will be our last episode until we move into the new year. So I'll see you again in 2018.
Wait, you're taking a break?
I am.
You're taking a break from this thing that you do?
Yeah.
How dare you?
Well, sometimes you got to take a break. Sometimes it's got to happen.
The dog is upset.
Oh,
my roommate's home.
Sometimes.
Look what you did, Jared. You tried to take a break and everything went sideways.
I know. Ooh, walk through the background. Walk through the background. Yeah, absolutely. Please,
it's the Pockets Full of Soup cinematic universe.
Look. Oh, look.
Hey, everybody.
It's special. It's a Christmas special. It's like when the guest comes in the door in the 70s Christmas special.
And the dog tries to bite their feet.
That was Callie Plaggy, everybody. Yep. She didn't sign up for this.
Anyway, Jared's taking a break. Let him have a break. What's wrong with you?
Oh, they're great. They're going to let me have a break.
I know.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Yeah, we didn't take one last year, and it's time. I didn't do rest.
That's actually one of the worst things with internet content is that, like, everything else does seasons. They take breaks. There's a built-in hiatus, but I feel like so much of the internet just kind of like a podcast happen every week, just like websites. There's no reason to stop. Why would you ever stop? Just keep going, keep doing it. Just you gotta fill every week. Just do it every week.
You know what? This is a very forgiving bunch, so I think we're going to be good.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Thank you for supporting this wonderful man.
Thank you for supporting this wonderful man, Max Scoville. Aww. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Pockets Full of Soup, the storytelling show. I'm your host, Jared Petty. I'm joined today by Peppers the dog, who's licking my face, who's the real guest today, and he brought somebody else along too. Who are you?
I'm Max Scoville. I'm Pepper's handler.
Pepper's handler.
Clearly, I'm not doing a very good job of handling him.
I think you are literally a Pepper's handler, right? That's in fact like not just like handler in the Hollywood sense.
Yeah, no, I'm just a man of really just bad jokes. I'm kind of subconsciously even turn myself into a joke. My name means the spiciest a pepper could be. Scoville is the unit of measurement for the hotness of peppers, and my name is Max Scoville. Max isn't even my legal name, but I accidentally picked this name as it's sort of a nickname that I go by, and
so you run with it with the dog. So you're Max Scoville.
And Peppers Scoville
is Pepper Scoville. So what have you ever thought about progeny? Like how you're going to keep this thing going?
So yeah, we I mean,
Peppers is really getting like deep in my ear with this.
You don't have to. He doesn't have to really.
It's really impressive.
He does like the ear. He doesn't have to stay in there the whole time.
I like having him here.
Oh, it's worth watching him lick your entire head.
Like my bald head?
Yeah.
Yeah. When you're bald, you can do
really the best way to polish it.
It's kind of great. I had some dental work done earlier today, and I'm thinking, maybe like he's attracted to the smell of the blood, or is he
just does this in general. He likes ears. He likes what's in there. He likes the salt on your body. I don't know how much salt's on your body.
Oh, maybe I do have kind of a maple syrupy taste.
You have a maple. That's the worst thing you've said to me, Jared. That's the worst thing you've ever said. We've known each other for years now.
Maple syrup?
Yeah, I don't know. The fact you're just a maple sugar man. I don't know.
Here, have a lick.
I'm not going to lick you.
You don't want to. You want to taste my maple syrupy goodness?
No.
Okay. But Max, 'tis the season for delicious treats.
Indeed. I don't think maple's a Christmas treat though.
I've had good maple stuff at Christmas.
You can have good maple stuff at Christmas. I've definitely had maple stuff in and around Christmas. That sounds weird the way I phrase that. I have relatives who lived in Vermont, so growing up there was always like a bit of maple sugar in the stocking stuffer. But on more than one occasion, I think I ate the entire thing before getting in the car, and maple sugar just makes me like a little bit queasy to this day
because of eating too much.
Yeah, but I mean, I was also like, I was like flipping through like a Lego catalog the entire trip, and then I was like, oh wow, the Space Police are back with all kinds of new sets. Oh, Lego City, and then it would just be like, I just had to throw up out the window. So,
have you ever like had an opportunity to tap a maple tree?
Oh yeah, I've totally done the whole like New England tree draining thing.
Were you drawn by the briskness of the day and the big smoldering like pot of maple syrup?
I think I had a tutor. I think I had a tutor because I was being bad in school, and I just was, emotionally wrought, and I had to stay home and was like not doing my classwork. And the tutor did the whole maple thing. Like he had the whole like he had like the shed, the big barn with the big iron tub in it, and you had like firewood burning to keep it.
See, I love that. Yeah, I love the smell of it, and just the kind of whole and then at the end there's a big delicious thing of maple syrup, and it's all yummy.
Yeah, I like maple syrup on pancakes and stuff and waffles, but I think once you get into like maple candy territory, I don't like maple donuts. And then you get into that weird sort of maple, like the maple, just the flavor.
You're making all our Canadian viewers and listeners weep.
Yeah, I mean
they love it so much they put it on their flag.
That's true. Yeah.
What do we have? Abstract Stars and Stripes. What do they have? A statement.
Well,
we like maple.
They probably had enough common sense not to like eat an entire maple sugar man before getting in the car for 3 hours to Vermont and then throwing up out the window.
That is a very good point. You know what, Max? I should not belittle the childhood nausea.
I want to say I did that more than once too. I had a habit as a child of sort of like. There's that thing where you're like, oh, you do something once and your body has a reaction to it, and you're like, well, I learned not to do that again. I remember on more than one occasion eating a turquoise crayon because I thought it was exactly the same color as a blue raspberry blow pop, and I was like, well, surely it's the same material. And then I was like,
but why more than once?
I honestly don't know. I think I was like, this will probably be differently this time. I mean, what's the definition of insanity and all that?
Okay.
But yeah, maple sugar. It's great, just not for me.
Just not for you. What about the progeny Scoville thing? Going back to that for a minute. You have a dog named Peppers. Your name is Max.
Yeah.
These are both pepper puns.
So that's the thing is I would love to if I had a daughter. Like I think Pepper would be a great name.
Okay.
I think it's a wonderful name, but it would be cruel. We'd be those people
that named your.
I went to school with a series of I don't know what you call it, a family, a group of sisters. Mm-hmm. It was a trilogy of sisters named Monica. That's a reasonable name, right?
Okay. Yeah,
okay.
Sure.
Well, then I don't know what order they came in, but close enough.
Then Rachel
and then came Veronica.
Oh.
And you're like, oh well, that's another name. It rhymes with Monica. That's interesting. And then there was Lonica, which is a lesser known Annika variant. Mm-hmm. So at that point, I think she just probably was like just not really having it.
So did it ever get to like harmonica or?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't know. But like, yeah, it was. She was always very nice, but
having the matching names,
finding out that it was like, what's wrong with your parents?
I think it's good to name a kid. I don't know. Pepper's actually kind of an adorable name for
but Pepper Scoville, and then people become like, oh, the like. I mean, I have this going for me, and people are like, hey, I don't know if you know this. I'm like, really? 30 years having a name. And they don't. You think maybe somebody told me this along the way?
I'd be more worried about the name of the dog, Indiana. Like, I think it's more.
Yeah. Well, I mean, at this point, that's why we named Peppers, so that we wouldn't do that.
To head that off.
Now, conversely, Jen loves the idea. My fiance loves the idea of the name Charlie for a girl.
I also love the name Charlie.
However, Jen is Vietnamese.
Oh,
so you can't really.
That could be problematically interpreted by some people. Or, you know what?
I mean, it would
y'all do what you want.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I mean, maybe that, that terminology will be sort of scrubbed away. But
antiquated by then, yeah. We are here to talk about the season of, Christmas.
Yeah.
Holiday bliss.
I love Christmas.
You love Christmas?
I'm a big fan of Christmas. And I think it kind of surprises people sometimes because I'm like, typically sort of I'm sort of like I don't know, not a joiner, like I'm not really necessarily the most positive person. I try to be cheerful sometimes, and there's also a lot of things where I'm like, I want to like burn stuff and listen to Danzig, and I do like that kind of, I've got that sort of teenager streak to me, but I do love Christmas. I think Christmas is awesome, and I don't know when this occurred to me. I think it was just sort of in the sort of early years of adulthood and independence and being like, well, I don't really have to go home. I could go home. That's always cool. But like kind of finding my own meaning for Christmas.
Ooh.
And one thing that that's always been sort of a part of Christmas for me growing up was my mom at a very young age took me to see a musical performance from this group called the Christmas Revels. And the Christmas Revels are they started out in Cambridge. This guy named Alexander Langstaff.
Okay.
Who was just kind of one of those wonderful kind of like, I think he was sort of he was kind of like a proto Renaissance fair nerd.
Okay.
Like the kind of person who probably helped like start the Dickens Christmas Fair, that kind of thing.
So around what time?
This would have been, I think he founded it in the 60s or 70s.
Okay. So somebody went out, read Tolkien.
Not even that.
Okay.
It was more of like, he had the kind of history nerd side to it too.
Okay.
And the Christmas Revels was a thing where it was getting a bunch of people together, kind of local performers and musicians and singers and dancers, and doing this sort of Christmas pageant that was rooted in the early, early Christmas stuff, even like the pre-Christian stuff, like the pagan
we're talking
stuff.
about like solstice type stuff. Like,
yeah, it was very much solstice heavy, and they've actually also they've done different versions. They do local performances all over the place. They do one down the street in Berkeley because of course they do. Berkeley
so like just primordial, like pre-Roman type stuff.
Absolutely, yeah.
Oh wow,
yeah.
Okay.
And it's it's weirdly haunting. But some of the stuff is things that have been carried over into modern Christmas carols, like on the first day of Christmas, my true love gave to me, and all that stuff. It's just a bunch of animals. It's a bunch of birds and leaves and stuff. And you're like
partridge in a pear tree.
Yeah,
turtle doves,
and there's no, there's no real. I mean, aside from Christmas, there's no real mention of like, I don't know, like there's no. It's not like Away in a Manger or like Silent Night or anything. It's not it's not a Christ centric hymn.
Yeah.
It's more about like, oh, like you're sort of doing some like weird kind of animal worship over here. You're doing like this totemic stuff.
Is that where that's from? Is that the origin of this?
Yeah,
I didn't realize that.
I mean, in the same way that the Yule log was carried over, and I started.
What can you explain for folks that don't know about the origin of the Yule log?
So the Yule log, I believe. It was like this very this stuff gets kind of all tangled up with itself, but I believe the deal was that you'd get this one huge log and you would burn it, and it was supposed to last through the solstice, which was the longest night of the year.
Yeah, you make a big old fire because anywhere in the northern hemisphere you have to deal with the solstice around that time, and so it's cold, and that's you want to get around it. And actually, it's funny. I enjoy the Laser Time podcast, and just recently they were talking about the same topic on that.
Really?
So this is fascinating.
What's really cool about it is it's funny, if you dig deep enough into Christmas, you find the roots of Game of Thrones.
Expound.
I mean, like the whole idea of like, oh, winter is coming, like the White Walkers, and like obviously this is a much more sort of like literal interpretation of winter as this supernatural force. But there was also the idea that like, oh, it's like it's the darkest night of the year, and the evil spirits will come out, and you have to celebrate, you have to like do something, you have to just scare them off. And I love it because, I mean, obviously, I don't know, I live in a major metropolitan area, and there isn't that sense of winter being an enemy, but I grew up in the country, and I very much am aware of that sort of that terror of having like, oh, when we're snowed in, we're isolated. Like there's, and this is with modern conveniences like cars and parkas, but there was a point in time where people didn't have that. And so, I don't know, there was a lot of, they really loved, apples, like they have a lot of apples. There's a lot of emphasis on apple trees and stuff. And they would,
apples keep for a long time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you can also make cider out of them.
Yeah.
And the thing about, cider or beer is that like, oh, it's water that doesn't have stuff in it because it's already spoiled. You kind of beat it to the punch.
So you're not going to die from drinking.
Yeah. But, the Rebels, they just do all these, they do all these really old songs, and they kind of, and it's interesting because it's still like, there's still elements of Christian stuff in there, but overall it feels more like something you'd see in The Witcher than in like.
Well, I mean, the match makes a lot of sense. I mean, one of the reasons that time of year I think was largely co-opted by Christianity. The Christmas story is a very optimistic story, the biblical Christmas story. I mean, it's a story about light overcoming darkness and wonderful things happening and new beginnings and a kind of it's a story of a change in the way things are, and it's celebrated in households by feasting, and it's just a very natural place to take those traditions and just kind of graft your theological and historical and scriptural basis onto.
But I mean, I think this must have been, I don't know when I got into this. I think this was probably 2013, 2012 maybe. So pretty recently. But I mean, it was always the Christmas Revels was, I got taken to that at a very young age, and I saw this like live performance, and they had there was a bit that I remember. There's a track on here, you can look it up. It's called the Bromley Horn Dance, and it's like this weird sort of haunting, sort of just. It sounds very very cold and distant melody, and it's just this. Boop, 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 boop. It sounds like something that you'd like if you were walking through the forest and you came across like a procession of elves or something. Like it's got this very like whimsical but also kind of like melancholy sound to it.
Like Peter Jackson elves or like scary elves? Like Krampus elves.
More of a Guillermo del Toro elf, I would say. Oh. Like kind of a Pan's Labyrinth sort of vibe to it, but again like less like I don't know, fiery and Spanish and more, More like kind of just eerie and like a frozen wood, very kind of almost C.S. Lewis-ish.
I'm just flashing to like the ice forest in Secret of Mana.
But basically, when they performed this on the stage, they had like these people, and I remember this very vividly. They had these like reindeer horns, like they kind of like they had, I don't know if they were even real horns or whatever, probably just deer antlers, but they were wearing them in this kind of this very sort of pagan way. Like
Like
they
a
were
totemic
yeah, and it was
or
just this
fetishes.
this dance routine with this, and it was. I don't think it scared me as a kid, but it definitely stuck with me.
Yeah.
And the whole thing is like there's a lot of like sort of bits on this record. You can find it on Spotify or iTunes or whatever. A lot of like stuff with like town criers and like it's got this sort of this pageantry to it. And there's like parts where like children come out and sing, and they perform
Sounds
this all over the place.
amazing.
And they've done like
never listened to this.
you would love it. It's totally like up your
I'm
alley.
buying this. Totally.
But I fell down this whole rabbit hole with that, and
Yeah.
I started researching like the roots of Christmas, and you dig into it and you find out that like Santa Claus was like he has elements of Odin in him, Like he's this
Expound.
He's this big white bearded dude who flies through the sky on a sleigh pulled by like by woodland creatures. Mm-hmm. Like Odin used to get pulled around by a bunch of wolves, right? Like that was, and he would come down the chimney, and there was all these kind of like these, I don't know, these very very symbolic themes, and it's what fascinates me about it is that like I grew up raised Christian, and I don't know, it never really grabbed me. I don't hate it or anything. It just didn't click. But there's something about sort of that infused with this almost like held over fantastical element. Mm-hmm. And you still get bits of this. Like the whole, my mom used to tell me growing up that like, oh, on Christmas Eve, animals talk. And like I like love that. I'd go to bed and she'd be like, "Oh, the cats are they're gonna be talking tonight. They're gonna."
Have you ever read any of the Icelandic Eddas?
No.
Okay, this seems like something the Elder and the Younger Edda, especially the Elder Edda, is something you ought to take a look at. I think you'd enjoy very much what you'd find in there. Which there's collections of Icelandic verse, largely. It's some of the older collections of Norse myth actually written down.
Oh, cool.
And
okay.
I think you'd enjoy it.
That sounds great.
Quite a bit. Yeah.
Yeah. Norse mythology never grabbed me particularly. I think there's a lot of it that's very cool, but I think it has been sort of beaten to death by either the, the comic book side of things or the heavy metal side of things. And like, it's weird of me to say that I don't appreciate that.
But there's so much of it that's more akin to. I mean, the Norse myths have their own flavor, absolutely. Yeah. But there's so much of it that's not Wagnerian. So much of it that's not like we're riding through the sky with rings and fire. Yeah. There's just like, here's a quaint little tale about some gods and how they interacted with some people one day and this cool thing that happened.
Right.
And that's where you were talking about talking animals and things. That's where my mind went.
No, I mean, the reality is back in the day, people were they were cold and they were malnourished, and they were eating lots of spoiled food, and there was probably all kinds of weird stuff in the drinking water. Yep. Like you look at how people react to like going to a third world country, and they're like, don't drink the water. Don't even get this cola with the ice in it, because the ice is the frozen water, and then you'll get the poops. And you're like, all right, well, now imagine that the entire world is like that, and people actively resist common sense, Yeah. And so, of course, you're going to make up these...
We don't know that feces communicates disease.
Yeah, right? And then... Yeah, I mean, you get these weird traditions and things that spring up around that, and I just find that fascinating. My mom, growing up, really was very into like European stuff. Like she loved. She was like raging Francophile to a fault, I would say. But because of that, she had a lot of old world Christmas traditions that she brought over with her. Not even brought it. She's from New York. Like she didn't bring them over. She went there and then brought them back, I think. But we'd always go to like these weird little like world stores. I don't know, like when it's different types of food from everywhere.
Ooh, okay.
Like you get like Cost Plus World Market, but then there'd be like the weird sort of like bootleg version of that.
Yeah.
You find them here and there. You get specialty food stores.
I love them. They're haunt
wonderful.
These places. Yeah.
You find like a Russian seasoning called like Vegeta, and it's got like this like screaming chef on it, but it's not like a bootleg Dragon Ball Z thing. You're like, interesting. But yeah, like some of the stuff.
It's called Vegeta because it's full of vegetables.
That would make sense. Yeah. But yeah, we I don't know. We would go to these things, and I'd kind of poke around. And one thing I love about Christmas is marzipan. Marzipan is when you take it is like it. First of all, the fact that you can it's the easiest thing to make. You get a bunch of almond paste, which is just squished up almonds, and then you mix it with powdered sugar. You just grind it through, and then you have almonds and sugar, and there's probably some some kind of like fixative in there or something, like formaldehyde. I'm not sure.
It's the paste they use to put dentures in your mouth.
Exactly. Yeah, get some of that. It's probably edible,
but
it goes in your dentures.
You put all this together.
Yeah, but you get marzipan, and it's used by it's used in cakes, and that's fine. But then if you go to like the right stores, you'll get like artisanal decorative marzipan, and I think it's supposed to be. It could be put on cakes or as like a decoration, but it can also just be candy. And it comes. It's the funniest thing in the world because they take candy and they shape it into vegetables. And I would get in my stocking growing up these incredibly realistic like radishes and carrots, but they're marzipan.
And so would you eat like your sugar radish?
I would eat just like piles of sugar, and I was like, these look like vegetables. And
Well, I mean, they're good for you.
Yeah.
Where did this tradition come from?
I don't know. That's just so there is a thing. Actually, hell, I don't know where the vegetable thing. I think it's just sort of a goof. They're like, hey, what if we made this thing look like this thing? I mean, in Japan, how they're like, hey, what if your eraser looked like a tiny chair or something? And
exactly.
You're like,
yeah, big deal.
But why don't you just get an eraser? I mean,
Oh no, you got to have an eraser. It's got to be really cute. It's got to be a Christmas cake. It's got to be a jimbisame. It's got to be something really cool.
Exactly. Yeah.
Why would you not have an eraser that's like a chair?
Yeah.
So I really think that's the question to ask.
That's true. Luckily, I probably do somewhere. It's probably downstairs. I don't know.
Can you bring the Christmas Revels back out for a second?
Let's take a look at this.
The artwork on this kind of a Boschian horror.
Oh yeah, no. It's you look at. I mean, I think Bosch was especially out of his mind. But if you look at Bruegel, I think Bruegel's a much better sort of assessment. Also, this is from
what you're seeing here,
Richmond Public Library. I got this on eBay. But yeah, like the old sort of just old paintings of villagers and townfolk doing stuff, and it's kind of like I don't know. You think back to that, and people didn't have like Xbox, they didn't have Netflix, they didn't have Zoloft, they didn't have like they didn't have frozen food they could just pop in the microwave. Like they kind of if you're stuck on Christmas, you're kind of you're stuck.
They had some booze, and you hope you had some food left over from the harvest, because if you didn't, you were starving, and you had a checkerboard if you were in Norway.
And I don't know, maybe somebody tells a good story, and someone's got like a lute.
Yeah, stories and singing. I mean, that's going to be a lot of it. I love it. I've harped about this on the show before. My all-time favorite piece of television programming is The Day the Universe Changed, which is a documentary series.
I think we talked about that the last time we were on the show together.
I want to evangelize this to the masses. It's almost impossible to get your hands on now, but it's this wonderful series about why things are the way they are. And they talk a lot about the influence of the things you're talking about and how they led to the world we live in. My college stuff was all in ancient Near Eastern studies, and so these traditions that are thousands of years old. One of the things that always struck me in college, reading through stuff from that period of time, is how often darkness comes up, and it took a long time to click for me the metaphor of light and darkness. Mm-hmm. That in the ancient world, if you're in your little village in the Palestinian or Sumerian countryside, or off the Egyptian delta. Once the sun goes down, if it's a cloudy night, it's just black. All around you is a wilderness of darkness, and the only light you have in a lot of these places is from an oil lamp about the size of a silver dollar with a little bit of olive oil in it and a tiny little bit of flame coming out of that, if you can afford the oil. And that's your nightlight. And that's what you got if there's no trees nearby.
You're going to start talking about Hanukkah over here?
No, I'm not.
The Festival of Lights?
But what I am going to talk about is you're talking about the Yule log. People gather together. Everything outside that is a black wasteland full of things that want to eat you or rob you or ghosts or monsters or...
No, I mean, I jokingly bring up Hanukkah, which I feel bad about. But no, there's a book called Herschel and the Hanukkah Goblins. I think that's what it's called. And I remember reading this in like second grade, and it's so cool. Like, I hope it gets turned into a movie. It's so cool. I
haven't read this.
It's this guy who's, I mean, I think it's supposed to be, I haven't read it in a million years, but this guy's, he's holed up in this shack somewhere, and it's during Hanukkah, and he's in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
And the whole thing is he's got like just enough like lamp oil or just enough light to last him however long. I haven't read this in a million years, and I forget how Hanukkah works because I'm a doofus. But these goblins start showing up, and they're terrifying. They're like, there's these, I mean, they probably had a pretty big influence on the terrible monsters I draw on bar napkins and then sell on t-shirts on teespring.com/comedybutton. I don't think that's even the right URL.
You know what? Get the right URL. You drew me that wonderful shirt on my face. I love.
You're not like a goblin though. You're like a benevolent genie. I don't know. But no, these like it's a very vivid picture book. I would love it if they did something with it, turn it like a. It's one of those things I'd want to see it turn into like a claymation movie rather than like a CGI movie.
Is it like a metaphor retelling of Hanukkah? Like
I think
because Hanukkah is
that's
about oil for, or part of Hanukkah is about oil for one night lasting 8.
I think that's the point of it. Yeah.
Okay, that's kind of beautiful. I love Hanukkah, the story of the Maccabees and the Maccabees and what happened there, and Octavius and all this amazing history around Hanukkah, and then the incredible cultural significance, and I love the food, and I love the parties, and I love
the underlying meaning behind any celebration or any tradition.
Yeah.
I think what sucks is when tradition becomes a thing we do because we do it, as opposed to like a thing we do because of this reason, and then kind of examining the reason and really reflecting upon it. But in the case of Christmas, I'm just as much probably an observer of Christmas as I am of the solstice, which is like the most like Wiccan thing I've ever said.
I don't know. I mean, why not be tied into the primordial part of ourselves? I mean, there's something. We live very far from. I'm not trying to be pippy dippy here. I really mean this. We live very far in a very scheduled, fast modern life from the natural world. Some of the most beautiful Christmases and New Year's I've ever had were ones where I was alone outside, especially in the evening, and the meaning of that season came down like a hammer when I had time to stop and listen. And I'm speaking for me as a person of faith. It does have a religious significance, but I found myself much more able to reflect on that when I just got away from a lot of the holiday.
Yeah.
Not that I don't like Christmas. I love Christmas.
The thing that I think people often forget, or I don't know, I mean, I live in California, so I'm sure it's totally different for people who still deal with this, but snow is quiet. Snow is muffling. Snow is this weird, and it kind of, I don't know, it's also, it'll keep you from going to work. It'll be this, it can kill you if you're out in it and you don't have a thing going for you, or, a thing to sleep in. But like, it's also like, I don't know, it's beautiful and it's silent, and there's something just very, I mean, it's like a little ice age every year.
I swear, I've told this story. Actually, there's a Patreon exclusive episode, just to shill myself a little more here. But one of my Patreon episodes is about this. I think it's a pretty good day episode. There was a New Year's Eve in Japan where I took a walk one night, and I swear, Max, I walked into another dimension for a while. Like, I walked down the street in the snow, in this perfect 11 o'clock on a New Year's Eve, and every other person on Earth vanished for a while. And I was someplace else for a bit. And then I came out the other end, and there was this blazing fire outside of Jinja there. And it was like something out of a Miyazaki movie in the cedar forest. And these awesome 2 old men just hanging out there by the fire. They're like, hey, what's up, American dude? Like, and hanging out. And I don't want to go down the whole thing.
I'm guessing you're paraphrasing there.
And then the new year rolls around, and I walked back out, and the world had come to life. And all the streets I'd walked through before that were vacant and silent in this heavy snow were full of people, families rushing to and fro from cafes and temples, and bells ringing and people shouting. And it was like I'd walked into a different world. And God, I loved it.
Yeah, I think that the modern world is so loud and so abrasive and so full of light that we forget sort of those are, I mean, these odd luxuries to have. Because if you're in the wilderness and you're theoretically surrounded by predators, I mean, being loud will scare stuff off, and having a bright light will keep you sane and keep you there. And
now, to be fair, not all the solutions were great. Hanging a bunch of torches on a pine tree in your house was
that's not good.
But although I was thinking about this, hanging out with you here. You are kind of a living Christmas tree. You're very tall, and you're covered in ornamentation that you've customized here. You've got all your tattoos are kind of different, amazing. Angie and I decorate our tree with an enormous chintz. We're very, very straightforward about that. We like the tacky multicolored Christmas lights and the bad tinsel, and our ornaments have no theme. They're just a bunch of
bad tinsel. I love that.
The bad tinsel and
the Bloodhound Gang Christmas album.
And we were talking the other day, and we looked at our tree, and I was like, we like big trees with lots of weird things on them. I was like, our tree's kind of like Max.
That's the nicest thing anyone's ever said about me. That is up there with when my friend said, you're not doing too bad for being 2 dogs disguised as a human adult.
Just in a trench coat,
being
standing
like, you're
on top
kind
of
of like a Christmas tree is like, I like that.
we like that our tree reminded us of you.
Yeah, that's the thing is, I kind of inherited all the family Christmas stuff.
Yeah.
My mom is, I mean, she's effectively a Buddhist nun. Mm-hmm. Like she's got her home, and she's, it's cool to go back there because it's got all these pieces of my house. But a lot of people, a lot of kids, they go home to their parents, and that's not even kids, adults at this point. They go home to their parents, and their parents have a house, and their parents live there, and it's the house they grew up in, and or maybe it's just the house their parents found. But like, my mom moved around a bunch, and she's like, hey, I'm gonna live in India for a year. Can you take all the Christmas ornaments? And I'm like, oh. I guess I'm doing Christmas on my own here now.
Wow. What was that like?
I mean, it's weird. Like, I don't know. It feels like that's the kind of thing is you kind of have to make your own Christmas. And that's something I've actually really enjoyed as I've become an adult is that like of finding, I mean, I'm going down to see my dad this Christmas, but like, and I get to feel like a kid again. But when I am sort of hosting here, there's this sense of like, oh, I don't know. It's like if you host Thanksgiving, like you got to carve the turkey, like that kind of thing, and like I got to I make sure that Christmas lights are up and get presents for everybody who's going to be here. And I think it was last year, my mom came and cooked, and then we had a bunch of friends who were in the city, didn't have anywhere to go, and like it was a bunch of just a gathering of adult friends. But it was weird because I was like, this is I don't know. It's this thing they don't really show in movies exactly. Like they always show Christmas is either like adults or children. There's no like that. There's no interim there. So it felt like sort of the end of a Home Alone movie, except everybody was like between like 26 and 30, like 4. I don't know. Like
that's kind of amazing, actually. What was you and Jenny's first Christmas together like?
Oh, so our first Christmas together was that might have actually been the one where I started really getting into this like weird medieval Christmas stuff because I was incredibly depressed. She went down to see her family, and I don't remember what my reasoning. I think I just didn't want to. I didn't want to intrude. Or I didn't want to impose. But yeah, she. I don't. For whatever reason, I didn't want to go down. I didn't feel like ready yet. It was one of those. That's like the history of a relationship. Is I'm just like I don't know about this. And in reality, if I'd gone down there, I would have just. Her uncles would have fed me beer until I passed out. But yeah, we were in this this tiny one room apartment. Just the two of us. It was this awful studio apartment in the middle of nowhere. I had middle of San Francisco, not middle of nowhere, but like middle of San Francisco empties out during the holidays.
Yeah,
usually.
It's weird.
I mean, most places do. People are inside with their families. There's not a lot of coming and going.
But San Francisco is
it's a ghost town.
Incredible that way.
It's a family of children, or a city of children.
Yeah. And so they all just vanish.
He doesn't. You can hold him without him licking the inside of your ear. Just give me the dog.
What's that?
You can't hear me because the dog's tongue is in your ear.
Well, yeah, but now he's going to be in your ear.
Pepper's
it's much more important. You're the one speaking.
Just grab him by the neck and he'll calm down.
Okay.
That's pet ownership 101.
There's also the part where I just kind of like when he licks my head.
Yeah, well, that's just weird.
Well, he's an adorable
I'm
little...
just scared to know what's under there after he licks all the maple sugar off.
Well, when all the maple syrups...
Jared used to be so much sweeter.
You know what? I'm sweet all the way to the core. Actually, you know what it's like? It's like a jawbreaker. You just keep going down, just sweet, and then at the very, very, very center, I'm this tiny little like chalky flake of sourness.
Just a tiny little Jared.
Hello, yeah. It's like hello there.
But yeah, so this Christmas, I was home alone, and like that movie.
Like that movie.
Except nobody would ever want to break into my crappy apartment.
Oh, whatever. You got some great stuff to steal.
No, this was not this apartment. This place.
Back then.
This place is full of treasures.
Yeah.
You stay away. I have the most vicious dog that would look. Yeah.
On cue.
Nice. But no, we were in this awful studio, and it was miserable and lonely, and I was just that was the only Christmas I've spent completely alone, and it was. It sucked, but like it also was sort of like, I don't know, elucidating. Like it was kind of like what should Christmas be, and you kind of realize who you're missing and who's not around. And
now with the depression, where did you go with that?
I wasn't. If I was depressed that year, it was because everything sucked. But there was a Christmas miracle that year. I got my first big break. I got an email. I want to say it was on Christmas Eve or the day after or something.
The Christmas day after Christmas Eve being Christmas Day?
No, somewhere around there.
Okay.
What do you, my accountant? The Nero Gonzalez, the founder of Destructoid, emailed me and was like, "Hey, do you want to host the Destructoid show?" and that was the first show I wound up hosting. And
no kidding.
It was totally a Christmas miracle. It came out like right at the right
That's
time.
amazing.
And I was like, I think I was working at a coffee shop at the time, and it was just, I don't know, bleak and miserable, and like, it was one of those periods in my life where I was like, I don't remember. There's parts of it I just don't remember, and I think it's because I was incredibly miserable. Mm-hmm. You do kind of block that out because you just for maintaining your insanity.
Well, I don't want to pry, but you've been open about this before. Seasonal affective disorder hits you pretty hard sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is Christmas a bad time for that?
Christmas is sort of this tentpole between bouts of it.
Okay.
My birthday, I love Halloween. I love my birthday. I love Christmas, and I mean New Year's is fine. And these are these weird little like two-pronged spikes. My birthday is Guy Fawkes Day. So really, if you want to just go through November 5th, like V for Vendetta, like, Anonymous the movie or whatever. Mm-hmm. So Halloween to my birthday is frequently 2 weekends. And then Christmas to New Year's is frequently 2 weekends.
Right.
And then between there, you got Thanksgiving. So there's this kind of like weird, like I don't know, probably looks like a weird tent or, a tiara or something. If you kind of lined it up in terms of where my mood
now
is
you're
at.
The accountant. You're graphing.
Yeah, there you go. I don't think they usually describe it as like, beauty queen jewelry. But anyway, like I around September when the seasons sort of start to change, I'm usually like, I start to feel like difference. And I don't know if that's because of years of conditioning of like, oh, it's time to go back to school. Summer is over. Or if it's like, oh, it's cold out and I don't want to go outside. And again, I live in California. It's not cold out. It's just not cold out. It gets cold out for like 45 minutes a year.
No, it's just slightly more chilly than normal.
Right.
But not enough to...
And I don't know. It starts to mess with me. And Christmas especially is just like, I love Christmas. Christmas, I don't remember any times Christmas has outright sucked. There was one year I was in Vermont at my aunt and uncle's house, and I was given a brand new turtleneck. I don't know who gives a child a turtleneck. What kind of monster was like, this is a good shirt for a kid to have. And I was like, I'm going to put it on right now. And I put it on. And to this day, I still don't know what caused this. I got a pinched nerve in my neck. And I blamed the turtleneck, but apparently I also did a bunch of somersaults afterwards. But either way,
I'm guessing it's the somersaults.
I think it was the turtleneck.
I don't know. I kind of hate turtlenecks.
It was a really tight turtleneck. I think I got a pinched nerve in my neck from a turtleneck, but I had to put it on, and then and immediately after Christmas, and I've got all these new toys, and it's snowing outside. I want to go out and throw snowballs and jump around in my stupid parka and just be like, oh, hello. And then I'm suddenly like, I think I broke my neck. And I was like, you didn't break your neck. And I was like, I think I broke my neck. And then we figured out that it was just a pinched nerve, which sucks if you're 6 or whatever.
I think that sucks no matter what age.
And I spent like 2 days in bed with a heating pad on it, and eventually felt better. But
so by and large, Christmas has been good for you. So the seasonal hasn't hit as hard then. That's kind of when you come up.
It's more January, February that really messes me up because there's really nothing to look forward to after that aside from springtime.
Okay, like Valentine's Day, not a big thing for you.
No, I mean they keep putting out. They start putting out games there now, which is good. You need to.
I do.
Hold on,
I do.
Just give me.
You going after the dog?
I'm gonna let the dog out. I'm gonna pull a Baja Man.
All right. He's letting the dogs out. While Max is letting the dogs out, I want to thank our Patreon producer, Robert Nieder. Oh, plugging that Patreon. Yep, there he's at. Robert Nieder, Patreon producer, whose generous support makes this show possible. Everybody who gives on Patreon, thank you for keeping the show going. Holy cow, look at this. We made it to another December. Thank you for that. Thank you for making so many of my dreams come true. You can check with us anytime in the Pockets Full of Soup Facebook group. It's free. It's fun. It's full of nice people. I hope you'll come there. And you can, if you want to, toss us a few bucks and get a lot of Patreon incentives. We got a pretty great back catalog now you might want to check out. Lots and lots of exclusive stuff there. That's at patreon.com/Jared Petty. That's patreon.com/Jared Petty, JaredPetty. Oh, wait, plug your Patreon, you say. We should plug Max Scoville's Patreon. Which one do you want me to plug?
Comedy Button.
All right. Well, how about you go to Max Scoville's Patreon, patreon.com/comedy button. Well, I was going to do this at the end, but he's shouting to me from the other end of the house. Patreon.com/comedy button. The comedy button, if you're not aware of it, podcast where a bunch of people get together and they tell funny stories and they do funny things. And they kind of have a fascinating hour-long process group every week. You can travel along and be part of their psychological journey / kind of epic level nerd out. It's like kind of delightful experience.
It's like M-rated, heavily unsupervised group therapy. I think that's a good way of assessing.
Yeah, and every now and then they've let me come play with them. There's some good boys, but it really is a combination of deeply stupid humor and marvelously meaningful discussion. And I really like that about the Comedy Button. I don't think you find that a lot of places.
It sounds like life in general.
Yeah, exactly.
It's got no elevator pitch. It's just absolutely terrible to try to explain it to people. But
yeah.
Please check it out.
I'm a Quaker, and it's kind of like the opposite of Quakers.
That's fair.
Yeah. That's a bad metaphor. I should have put it that one.
The Quakers are what, like, be quiet and think, and we're like, what if we just said a bunch of stuff and didn't think too hard about it?
Love that. Anyway, but beyond Comedy Button, anything else you want to plug right now while we're doing the plug?
No, let's talk about Christmas.
Yeah, let's talk about Christmas. So let's look at, you got some more paraphernalia over there.
I was talking about marzipan and European Christmas traditions, and one thing that was always sort of part of my upbringing was German Advent calendars.
I love Advent calendars so much. Best? Yes, they are. Why do you love them?
They're like, God, how do you even explain that? Well, first of all, they'll get you through December.
Yeah,
it's a thing to wake up to and look forward to every day. Yeah. Where you're like, oh, it's raining or it's snowing or it's cold or I'm angry outside and I don't want to go do whatever I have to do, whether it's school or work or whatever. But there's a small door to open up on this calendar and I can find out what's inside it. It's that curiosity level. I love these because you've just got, they're little doors you open up. I think there's the modern Advent calendar, which is like you open the door and you get a prize, and you get like a chocolate or like I'm
all about that,
like a Lego figurine or whatever. And like the Lego ones are okay. I did one last year; it was okay.
You did a Lego calendar,
but you wind up with like a bunch of pieces of Lego sets, which is cool. There's a Playmobil one, which is like for like really like really rich kids. Oh,
well, what would you want yours to be? Like if you made an Advent calendar, Max, what would it be?
I think there'd be like a different thing, period. It wouldn't be like a cohesive theme. It would be a surprise.
Every day
that's really the
random.
thing. Is
okay.
I've heard that they do ones with whiskey, where it's a different type of like, small batch, bourbon or scotch or whatever in there. And then I've heard about they're doing marijuana Advent calendars, which honestly, that would like last me a year. That's just too much weed. I don't think anyone needs that.
Like a marijuana, is it like a different kind of marijuana every day?
It's like an edible or like a little ball, like a little piece of it or what, like I don't know what the measurement is, but it's definitely at the end of the month you've got way too much drugs or plants or whatever you're calling them these days. I'm
trying to figure out how that one fits the medical designation, honestly, but
But yeah, like I like these because they're just funny little pictures. It's weirdly hard to find these. I think they sell them at like Papyrus, that that gift card store.
I think Hallmark still has them.
Okay, yeah, I should start going.
I'm a sucker for Hallmark stores. I'm sure this will really surprise you.
That's the least surprising thing I've ever heard.
It is very difficult for me.
Precious moments, man.
I seek out Hallmark stores. I walk into them. I actually go to the physical store, walk around, look at things, and almost invariably leave with an item of Charlie Brown paraphernalia.
Oh, Jared, you're like a Precious Moments figurine that grew up.
You know what? Thomas Kincaid, the artist of light. Oh. No, I don't like Thomas Kincaid. But I do like.
So I bought this one. Each year I try to get like a different one, and I fear that I'm running out because I like to get one every year, but I don't know if the man who painted this or woman who is still alive.
Just ones from the series, you mean? Richard
Selmar Verlag, if you're still alive, let me know, and I'll run your German email through Google Translate.
Okay, that's awesome.
But I found this on Amazon, and the reviews were really funny because two of them were like, "Hey, it's a very nice Advent calendar," and one of them was like, "I opened the small doors, and the pictures were very strange," and it was like 3 stars, and I was like, "What did you think you were getting? Did you want chocolate? Did you think it was going to be like I don't know, like a wholesome American like?" Like these are still very pagan. They get like they got these funny deer and stuff. There's all kinds of animals.
Well, I love Advent calendars. I love Advent. That's right. So again, I hope I don't sound like Preachy McPreacher tonight. But this Christmas is probably my favorite element of the religious year, or the Christian religious year. And in particular, I like Advent because it's a ritualized kind of mindfulness. Every week has a theme.
Does it really?
Oh, yeah. Have you ever seen an Advent wreath before? Has 4 candles on it. Often 3 are purple and 1's pink, and then there's a white one in the center between the 4 candles.
Okay.
An Advent wreath, each candle is for a week of Advent, and each one, the first one commemorates the prophets or the preachers. The second one commemorates the shepherds. The third one, the magi. the fourth one, etc. They all have themes,
Okay.
and you go through them, and they're all to remember different parts of the story and how they're important to the overall theme. It's neat, or I like it anyway, and I like fire.
Yeah, that works.
And candles are awesome. Christmas is we didn't even talk about that. We talked about big fires, but we still keep that going with the candles. Like,
Do you know about about Cagatio?
no, what's this? Am I gonna love this?
You're gonna love this. So, I wanted to get into this when we we're talking about the marzipan.
Yeah.
The thing about European Christmas is it's frequently just foul. It's frequently just the most puerile, weird, needlessly scatological thing.
Oh wait, are these the pooping guys?
Yeah, they are. No,
Okay.
no, actually, they're. Oh, I have one. We'll get to that in a second. But there is a thing. First of all, walking around one of these stores with the marzipan and stuff, one of the strangest things I've ever seen in regards to Christmas was I believe Dutch, maybe German, edible figurine of a small boy who was pulling his pants down, and there was a gold coin sticking out of his bottom, and that was it. And it was
That is.
it was made of almond paste, and you could just eat it.
I don't mean
And you get the gold coin as a prize.
I don't mean to be overly judgmental, but that creeps me out a little.
So in Catalonia, which I believe is the northeast region of Spain,
Sure.
they have you can look it up. I don't know enough about Spanish culture, and if I'm butchering this, somebody please get
Tell him, not
needlessly mad about it on Twitter or whatever.
At him, not
They
me.
have a thing called kaganers, which is it's I believe the same root word as caca. And the kaganer is he's a member of the nativity. He's a character who shows up in the nativity scene a lot. Like if you have like a creche, or you've got the donkeys and you got Joseph and you've got Mary and Jesus.
You got the Christ child, you got the angels, you got the
whole
shepherds,
thing is
you got
like,
the wise men.
Yeah, the manger, the titular, not titular manger, but the manger of the
Yeah, that
nativity.
would be manger mess if it were the titular manger.
Sure,
Right.
but the whole point of it is like it's supposed to be really. It's like giving birth in like a Denny's parking lot. Like it's not it's not even Denny's, like a Motel 6 parking
Oh
lot.
yeah, it's awful. It might have been a cave. It might have been the upper area of a building. It might have been a lot of things.
And there's it's very bad. And so to really just drive this home,
the lower area of the building. Sorry.
the kaganer is a dude who's taking a dump.
Like a figurine.
He's a character who's in there, and
He's like squatting.
He's squatting, and there's visible poop. He's going to the bathroom right near baby Jesus being born, because the whole point of that is to establish that like Christ is born onto earth. Like this is humanity. This is the worst parts. Like you've got farm animals there, you've got, hay on the ground, and it's just, it is not a good place to be giving birth to a child.
No, you're laying him in a feeding trough surrounded by feces.
There is no room at the inn because the inn is probably full of nasty hedonists, and one of them, I don't know, had like too much whatever they ate there and went out to go to the bathroom near the farm animals, which under normal circumstances would probably be fine. So what's weird about this, though, is that they've made this tradition of merchandising the absolute hell out of these guys. They're like a very popular like souvenir out of Spain. They make them for every possible, like they make Lady Gaga ones. They have like Brian Altano, who I think has been on the show.
Please tell me there's a Brian Altano one.
No, there's not yet. They do make a Mario Brothers one. He has one of those. I think he's pooping a little mushroom. Think any pop culture thing you can imagine. They make a version of it for one of these, and they're all, of course, like made of weird terracotta with like tempera paints on them, and they're very bootleggy, and they're in the weird local like handicraft thing. And at that point, you're like, okay, well, what does this have to do with Christmas? If you ever thought of putting something like this in like an American nativity scene, people would be like, what is wrong with you? How dare you? This is offensive and terrible and bad. However, over there, it's part of it. Like it's part of the scene. And there was, for a moment, people were like, hey, maybe we should just get rid of the guy taking a dump near Jesus. And there was a massive outrage where people were like, how dare you try to take the crap out of Christmas?
Okay, that's I want to see the new War on Christmas crusade around this. That's kind of amazing. Max, that's striking. I love that.
So
that's amazing.
The funny part?
What's that?
That's not the only Catalonian poopy tradition.
What?
Yeah, there's a character called Cagatio who is the Crapping Christmas log. This is a weird bastardization, I guess. I don't know, reinterpretation of the Yule log situation.
It sounds like the worst Chrono Cross character ever.
It is like no matter. Okay, so picture. I feel like the log from Ren and Stimpy might have been inspired loosely by this.
Okay.
I don't know. They get these logs. They get these hollow logs, and on the front of them, there are like googly eyes, like big, just stupid plastic googly eyes, and like a little stick sticking out as the nose. It looks like Stick Stickly from Nick in the Afternoon, but it's a log, and you put it in your fireplace or in your hearth or whatever, and the back of it's hollow.
Oh.
And the whole thing with this is Cockatiel, he hangs out there, and I believe, I might be messing up the details here, but you're supposed to sort of feed him. You're supposed to, like, you know, it's in the same way that you're supposed to, like, oh, leave cookies for Santa, that kind of thing. But you put food in the log, I think. And the idea is that on Christmas Day, you beat Cockatiel with a stick, and he craps presents. And there is, I'm not making this up.
Why are you beating him?
To make him go to the bathroom. I don't know.
Do you go to the bathroom when you're beaten?
If I'm beaten hard enough, probably. I don't know. I've never been beaten by Catalonian school children. But, like, you take these sticks. There's a song out there. You can find it. I think they got, God, they did a thing on, like, Jimmy Fallon a few years ago where it was, like, they got, like, I don't know, like Joss Stone or somebody to sing, like, this song. But the song is, like, it's, like, Cockatiel, or it's like Christmas log, give us presents, do not give us onions and herring, give us treats, give us nougat, give us almonds, give us chocolate, do not give us onions and herring. Like, that's specifically the kind of stuff that goes in there. And the whole thing is you hit the stick with the logs, and there's like you throw a blanket over it first, so I don't know, so it can't see what's happening. And then out of the back, people reach in and they pull stuff out. And it's kind of like
out of his butt.
Yeah, I mean, it's not really a butt, it's a log. It's just the back of the log is hollow. So theoretically, that's his butt. But you reach in there and you grab presents, and it's like a stocking.
That's amazing.
Or like putting presents in, like, you know, clogs.
I have a weird adversity to scatological stuff in general.
That's
a whole
very
other can of
healthy.
worms.
That's very healthy.
And so all of this, I am intrigued. I'm trying to not be intimidated by the tradition.
Well,
I'm being silly. Yeah. It's a log that's full of presents. How could you not love that? So it's no weirder than beating a Muppet made of paper mache with a stick so that its candy blood will rain down upon you, which I would say I honestly do constantly.
You're still beating this anthropomorphized object with sticks, but it's a little bit less I don't know, brutal and like visceral than the piñata.
I'm holding a party this weekend. I'm going to do that. It's or any number of other traditions.
So the funniest part of this, though, I guess it's all pretty funny, is that the way you know that it's over is that I believe the onions and herring are the last thing put in. So when Cockatiel gives you onions and herring, or like it's when you get your vegetables, your boring stuff, your lump of coal, so to speak.
Yeah. Then
you're like, man, Cockatiel, he's done crapping presents. He gave us our iPod Nanos and our Toblerones or whatever. So yeah, that's a thing out there.
Do you throw him in the fire after that?
I don't know. I don't know about that. But yeah, like I said, I fell down like a weird wormhole of like Christmas traditions and lore, and I really love Christmas because it's insane.
I adore you. Yeah, it is insane. It's an incredibly weird and wonderful holiday. And I love the fact you're reminding us that all over the world there are things full of tradition and meaning, and I'd love to run down the rabbit hole of where that came from.
Yeah.
I love what you were telling me about the creche and the nativity there, and about how things that initially seem strange can often be very full of meaning that if we bother to listen to people and bother to look,
love actually is all around us.
I love that movie.
Yeah, it's a good movie.
I love that movie. Yeah, I'm not on the hater bandwagon for Love Actually. That's a good movie.
No, it's a good movie. You got Qui-Gon Jinn, you got Rick Grimes, you got Mr. Bean, you got Rufus Scrimgeour. You got all kinds of characters in that film. You got Elizabeth Swann.
You got Hans Gruber.
Hans Gruber's in that movie.
And Severus Snape.
Yeah. There's some great people in that film.
Yeah.
You got Carl Mordo. Carl Mordo. Exactly. Alan Rickman was in the two best Christmas movies.
Yes. It's kind of weird. It's a little strange. Angie and I were talking about this.
He also played the female gremlin. So he's in. No,
Alan Rickman?
no,
No.
he didn't. Alan Rickman did not play the female gremlin.
Well, I didn't know.
Yeah, well,
Weirder things
that
have
we
happened.
know of. You know,
Frank Oz been some strange stuff. You never know.
True.
All right, what's this last item you have here? Let's get to this one real quick before we run out of camera battery.
Real quick. This is just Babar and Father Christmas.
Oh, I love Babar.
Babar.
And this goes back to your French type ancestry.
Honestly, I don't know. This, like I said, my mom loved French stuff. I think this is actually this is in English. This is probably hers as a child.
Okay.
But this is
you were born in France, right?
I was born in France, but yeah, I mean, my mom had regular Babar books growing up, and this is about these damn elephants and their monkey friend, and they're hanging out, and there's probably all kinds of weird problematic undertones in here. But I love this because it's all about Babar trying to find Santa Claus, and it's weirdly like, I don't know, he tracks this dude down. And he fights these elves with his nose. Like, I don't know.
Whoa.
There's
using
something,
like Superman's cold breath, like from his nose.
Yeah, and they like strip him naked and they give him like a sponge bath. It's really weird. And they're
I
like
want to
Snowy
read this
from
book.
Tintin is there. I don't. It's just. I think the whole point is he's sort of like, hey, like, oh, also, yeah, it gets weirder. Father Christmas has like a UFO. So it says like Père Noël #1. Like,
what does it mean to you? Why do you love it?
I don't know. I think it's just showing exactly how weird and off the rails Christmas can go.
Tiger zebra horse that guy's riding?
That is exactly what that is. And also, like Santa Claus is just either he's frostbitten or just hammered because his face is just bright red. I think Babar, I don't want to spoil this like 70-year-old children's book. Look at that. They're going to start a fire with all these. I always hated this guy. I look like Abe Simpson. But yeah, like, I don't know. I don't know why I grabbed that. I couldn't find some other Christmas books. But
no, these are beautiful things.
Check out the Christmas Revels. Support your local specialty food store that maybe have weird marzipan vegetables and half-naked boys with coins in their bottoms. And, check out Babar and Father Christmas.
Give presents. Share the spirit of the season with those around you. Tell people you love them. Do kind things for them.
That's really the underlying message of Christmas is just try to be a decent human being. Be nice to people. It will get you through the winter and you won't freeze to death, hopefully.
Yeah, I'm with Linus on this one. It's I watch it every year. I going back to my homework thing, but I really do love Charlie Brown's 1960s frustration with the confusion of Christmas, looking around and at something made 50 years ago.
Have they done any research to actually like determine whether or not Charles Schulz invented depression?
I think that Charles Schulz was very well acquainted with it.
Definitely.
I think he did more to popularize our understanding of it than anyone in pop culture.
I'm
in his
being
generation.
facetious, but I mean,
no, I'm not. I can go down.
I
this
mean, I love
rabbit
the
hole.
idea that it was like, oh yeah, like the violence in schools, it's doom's fault. But in the '60s, they're like, the kids are sad. It must be that no good peanuts.
No, Charlie Brown, no kidding. Without getting down too dark a hole, had a profound role in me beginning to understand the role depression played in my life early on, and being willing to accept that. That's a whole other show we'll do sometime. But
Dennis the Menace did the same thing for people who were sociopaths. So
that's the menace. All right. Well, thank you for doing this. Let us, my friend, in this Merry Christmas Yuletide, let us plug. What shall ye plug?
Plug all ye faithful. Check out the Comedy Button if you haven't already. It's a show I do every week with my good friends. We put it up every week. We don't record it every week, so you get these weird sort of filler episodes here and there that don't make any sense. But it's thecomedybutton.com or on iTunes or Google Play or whatever you find your sounds on. We're also on Patreon, patreon.com/comedybutton. If you give us $5 a month, you get access to our entire back catalog of every weird bonus Patreon episode we've ever done, as well as I think like 45 movie commentaries and a bunch of deleted scenes, which are just real weird. And you've been on a bunch of those. And you can find me on IGN. I do Up at Noon every Thursday at noon Pacific time. It is a usually live comedy variety show I do with Brian Altano. It's nonsense. We play with toys and goof around and have a good time. And it's sort of just this weird, simultaneously high, low budget Wayne's World. Yeah.
I love that.
It's like if nobody paid for QVC.
Final question before we go.
Shoot.
Christmas monster movies, Gremlins versus Krampus. which is the superior.
Oh, gotta give it to Gremlins. Gremlins it has the edge. It did it first. But Krampus is incredibly underrated, and not enough people have seen it. So get out there and watch Krampus. Support your local Krampus immediately.
Krampus should not work, but it does, and it works well. I adore that movie.
You forgot Rare Exports.
Oh, expound.
Have you not seen Rare Exports?
I have not.
Rare Exports is a Norwegian horror film about Santa Claus. Everybody go watch it, including Jared.
I will, absolutely. Friends, thank you, and Merry Christmas. I'm going to miss you. I'll see you next year. Bye-bye. God bless.